Now America loves a good military base, we've got them everywhere. Seriously, we're like that friend who goes backpacking through Europe and leaves a trail of dirty laundry in their wake, except instead of socks and regret it's just bases, hundreds of them. And you know what? Those bases aren't free. Some are leased from other countries, which is essentially just a fancy way of saying we're paying rent. And some of these rental agreements? Well, let's just say they'd make your landlord blush. Over the next few minutes, we're going on a world tour, shining a light on the top 10 most expensive US military bases abroad. We're talking eye-watering sums of money being poured into places that frankly, might make you wonder if someone, somewhere, got their geopolitical priorities a little muddled. Like, for instance, why are we spending billions to maintain a base on a tiny island in the middle of the Indian Ocean? Buckle up, kids, because things are about to get expensive, and just a little bit uncomfortable. First up, it's Ramstein Air Base in Germany, the crown jewel of our European military presence. This place is essentially the airport lounge for everything the US military does in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Troops, cargo, you name it, it goes through Ramstein. And how much does it cost to keep this behemoth running? Oh, just a cool $939 million a year. You could buy a lot of bratwurst with that kind of money. But hey, at least we're getting our money's worth, right? I mean, it's not like we're propping up a government with a questionable human rights record or anything. Oh wait. Next, we jet over to Camp Humphreys in South Korea, our second most expensive base, clocking in at a hefty $794 million annually. This sprawling complex is home to tens of thousands of troops and their families, and it's meant to be a deterrent against North Korea. Which is all well and good, except North Korea's idea of a good time is launching missiles into the sea and threatening to turn Seoul into a sea of fire. So, essentially we're paying close to $1 billion a year for a base that might be vaporized in an instant. I don't know about you, but that doesn't exactly scream sound investment to me. Our third stop takes us to the tropical paradise of Okinawa, Japan. That's right, folks, Kadena Air Base is nestled on this beautiful island, and it's costing us a tidy $721 million a year. Now, Okinawa is known for its stunning beaches, crystal clear waters, and the constant roar of American fighter jets. See, the locals aren't exactly thrilled about having a massive military base in their backyard. They've been protesting for years, demanding its closure. But hey, who needs peace and quiet when you can have a strategically important airbase, right? From the Pacific, we sail over to the Persian Gulf where we find ourselves at Naval Support Activity Bahrain. This base is all about projecting American power in the Middle East, and it comes with a price tag of $581 million per year. That's right, over $500 million to maintain a base in a country that, let's be honest, isn't exactly known for its stable political climate. But hey, at least we can tell ourselves we're promoting democracy in the region, right? Just ignore the whole propping up an authoritarian monarchy thing. Next up, it's Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, a place so synonymous with human rights abuses that it's practically a punchline. But hey, at least it's a beautiful spot for a military base, right? Never mind that the Cuban government wants us out, or that it costs us $520 million a year to keep it running. This place is a legal and moral black hole, and yet we cling to it like a toddler to a security blanket. It's time to face facts. America, Guantanamo Bay isn't making us safer, it's just making us look bad. From Cuba, we head back to the Middle East, this time landing in the scorching deserts of Qatar, home to Al Udeid Air Base. This base is another key hub for our operations in the region, and it costs us a cool $494 million a year. Now, Qatar is a tiny country with a big bank account thanks to its vast oil and gas reserves. And you know what they say, when you've got it, flaunt it. Or, in Qatar's case, use it to fund a lavish lifestyle and cozy up to the US military. Gap 3S. From the heat of Qatar, let's move to another Middle Eastern locale where US dollars are flowing like water, Camp Arifjan in Kuwait. The annual cost for leasing bases in Kuwait alone is a staggering $600 million. Yes, you heard that right. $600 million just for the leases. Image of burning oil fields. This small, oil-rich nation has been a key partner in our military strategy since the Gulf War, and we've been paying a hefty price to maintain our presence there. The burning oil fields you see here are a stark reminder of the region's tumultuous history and the economic stakes involved. Camp Arifjan is a major logistics hub, supporting operations across the Middle East. But with such high costs, one has to wonder, are we getting our money's worth? Or are we simply fueling another expensive dependency in a volatile region? Remember, the US protected Kuwait from being absorbed by Iraq, and as a result, they owe us their existence. Yet we have to pay them for our bases on their soil, and they do not acknowledge our efforts or teach it in schools. Chapter 7. Thule Air Base, Greenland, chilling out, with your wallet ready to cool down? Too bad, because we're heading to Thule Air Base in Greenland, the northernmost US military base in the world. This remote outpost is strategically important, we're told, for monitoring Russian activity in the Arctic. It's also costing us $463 million a year, that's right, almost $500 million, to maintain a base in a place where the average temperature hovers around -10 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm starting to think the Department of Defense has a thing for extreme real estate. Chapter 8. Diego Garcia, British Indian Ocean Territory, Paradise Lost and Paid For. Next stop, Paradise? Well, not really. Diego Garcia, a tiny island in the Indian Ocean, might sound like a tropical getaway, but it's actually home to a controversial US military base. This base has been shrouded in secrecy for decades, and it's costing us $418 million a year. What exactly are we getting for all that money? Well, Diego Garcia is strategically located in the middle of the Indian Ocean, making it a prime spot for projecting power and launching military operations. It's also a great place to, forcibly displace an indigenous population. But hey, who needs ethical foreign policy when you've got strategic interests, right? Chapter 9. Andersen Air Force Base, Guam, where America's spending goes to die. From the Indian Ocean we hop over to the Pacific island of Guam, home to Andersen Air Force Base. This base is another key part of our Pacific presence, and it's setting us back $395 million a year. Now, Guam is a US territory, which means the people who live there are US citizens. They also have to live with the constant threat of a North Korean missile attack, thanks to the presence of our military bases. So, basically, we're asking these loyal Americans to put up with a lot for the sake of our national security, and we're not even giving them a discount on the rent. Chapter 10. Incirlik Air Base, Turkey, a strategic partnership, with a few strings attached. Our final stop takes us to Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, a country that's been both an ally and a thorn in our side for decades. This base is strategically important for our operations in the Middle East, and it costs us $377 million a year. But here's the thing, Turkey has been playing both sides of the fence in recent years, cozying up to Russia while still technically being a NATO member. So we're essentially paying hundreds of millions of dollars to maintain a base in a country that might turn around and bite us in the ass. Sounds about right. The bottom line time for a rethink? So, there you have it. The top 10 most expensive US military bases abroad. We've spent billions if not trillions of dollars maintaining these bases over the years, often with little to show for it. Since the first Gulf War, we've poured an estimated $100 billion into leasing bases in Kuwait alone. Let that sink in for a moment. $100 billion to protect Kuwait's oil industry. An industry that, ironically, we then went to war with Iraq to protect. It's enough to make your head spin. The point is, it's time to have a serious conversation about our military spending priorities. Do we really need all these bases? Are they actually making us safer? Or are they just draining our coffers and entangling us in endless conflicts? It's time to start asking tough questions and demanding better answers. Because the status quo, it's just not sustainable. And frankly, it's not very funny either.